We are talking the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, and movie music magic. Welcome to Screens in Focus, the podcast where we talk about TV and movies and music. I'm Diana. Renee is here. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Hello, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am so glad you can join me today. I know I sprung this on you, but with Brian Wilson's
Mhm.
passing, I really wanted to revisit the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, and just movies in general. So I'm so glad that you're
I'm
here.
so glad you asked. Very excited.
So we are going to dig in and we are going to start with our question of the day. And that is, if your life had a soundtrack moment, what song would that be? So I want you to think about it, Renee. I want our friends out there to think about it. And we're going to answer it later on. But right now, I do want to say that Brian Wilson's passing on June 11th struck me like it did across the music world and so many places, and it just reminded me of all the music of my childhood and good times and so much more. So this is a bit of a tribute, a bit of nostalgia, and just talking about good old music and movies. So I'm really excited about our conversation. And of course, I thought of you because we've talked about music
Mhm.
together so much. We did our soundtrack episode earlier in the year, and we also did music videos.
Mhm.
So I love that you're my music person. So thank you again.
Yes, I'm glad to talk about music anytime. So,
Yeah. Okay, so the Beach Boys comprise of Brian Wilson, Dennis Wilson, Carl Wilson, who are all brothers, and their cousin Mike Love and friend Al Jardine. So, and they started in the 60s and their classic California surf rock sound that was just such a part of my childhood. I'm going to check in with you in just a moment about that. But I do want to mention that Brian Wilson was such a genius in so much of what he did. And he wasn't just a singer songwriter, he was an innovator. And he just took pop music to new heights. And he had smart arrangements and just emotional depth, which we'll get into. But first, he had that really fun vibe. And so I want to know, what Beach Boys song do you remember hearing first? And then what songs really resonate with you?
Mhm. Well, often I remember like, oh yeah, I remember being, a young kid and hearing this song somewhere or something like that. But with the Beach Boys, after I read that question, I thought, I just don't ever remember the first time. I just remember always listening, just hearing the songs and listening to them. And, whether I don't know if they were on the radio or if my parents played records, I'm not real sure. But I just always remember the songs, and I knew you kind of catch yourself. You're like, how do I know all the words to these songs?
I
You
know.
do, they're, the lyrics are very clear in most of their songs. They just
Mhm.
the way they sing, and so it's just one of those things where I always love hearing the songs, and the lyrics are always so fun. And even though there's some that are not kind of, they'll say nonsensical kind of whatever, but they're just fun, and so it's just always kind of been there. But God Only Knows is always a favorite. That one is just incredible. Those harmonies. I mean, that's just I mean, I just don't even know.
I
I sing and
I got
I'm like, I don't know
chills.
how they do that.
Yeah.
But like, I love how now, with his passing, they've been recirculating the video where they've just pulled out just the isolated vocals for that. And it's like, then he just takes it to another level. And so that's one of the songs. And I did come across it when I was doing some research, and maybe you've seen this, but BBC Music did had an orchestra, and then all these guests sing the song. Have you seen this video?
I don't know. I think I might have. Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, I had never seen it, and I was like, I was just glued to YouTube. Like, it just came across, I was searching, Beach Boys, and that I came across. I'm like, what is this? And so I watched. I was like, why have I not seen this? It's incredible. It has all these familiar faces: Dave Grohl, Brian May, Elton John, Chris Martin of Coldplay, all these.
Yes.
So you know which one, and it's very
Yeah.
fantastical and kind of really neat how they did this with the orchestra. And I was like, this is outstanding. And one note, hearing Chris Martin from Coldplay sing just that little piece he did, I'm like, I want to hear a cover by Coldplay of God Only Knows. So they need to get on
Yeah.
that because it was incredible. So if you want to see it, just look up on YouTube, look up Beach Boys BBC music, I think it is. It
Yeah, I
was
think I saw it on TikTok recently
okay,
because, of
probably
course,
before, yeah.
it's popping up on my feed because of everything with
Mhm,
Brian Wilson,
mhm,
and with that song, since you brought it up, I can't help but talk about it also. Paul McCartney has said that that is the best song ever written,
mhm,
which is incredible. And I know that both the Beatles and Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys were always trying to kind of like one up each other. Like it was Brian Wilson hearing the Beatles song and he's all, oh, I got to write this song now, and he's got to do this. And so they inspired each
mhm,
other to be better. And wow. And just like you said earlier, there isn't a bad Beach Boys song. They're all really good. Now, my introduction was that I have older siblings and they were already young teenagers or around that time when I was growing up. So they had records. And so I would play their records.
mhm,
And I remember playing I Get Around, Don't Worry Baby, Surfin' USA. I mean, just the
mhm.
45s, the little
Yes.
solo ones. And I remember just seeing it and playing it, both sides,
Mhm,
and so I had an early love for that. Plus, we had neighbors who were surfers, and their family were surfers, and they would play the music all the time, so I felt like it was always around.
mhm,
Plus, I'm in California, so
mhm,
I think that that lends itself to it
mhm,
too. But so many songs were so good, and like you said, they were easy to sing along, and I think it's because their lyrics were so relatable. It was so what you experienced or lived in as a youth, like, taking the keys to your, father's car and in the backgrounds, you shouldn't have lied. Yeah, you shouldn't have lied. I mean, it's so funny, right? Because you shouldn't have lied, but it's hilarious that you put that in a song.
mhm,
And In My Room, that song In My Room, I mean, what youth is not in their room thinking about life, what's happening to them? So it's just so much,
mhm,
every single song. And some of the songs are so quick, like so many words in their lyrics. And it just all makes sense. And just multitude of songs. No wonder they were
mhm,
so big and how timeless their music is, because even as youths now, even though they're not experiencing the same thing as the 60s or the 70s, there's just still something about it that's very, very relatable. And I hope it doesn't take, unfortunately, someone's passing, but at the
mhm,
same time, I'm glad that music is out there again, and hopefully people will be hearing it, new generations to experience, because they're just so great. I do want to say Good Vibrations is it's called a pocket symphony,
mhm,
and it was recorded in pieces across studios, and it was groundbreaking at the time, and it still is. It's just genius. So I'm just hoping I don't miss like so many songs out there that are so good. And we had talked about God Only Knows and how emotional it is and how timeless, and it was bold for its time. So I love that. I do want to bring up a memory with my childhood friend Michelle. This was probably, I might have been late 80s, but I remember walking into her apartment with my husband, and somebody was leaving a message, and they said it was Mike Love. And I'm thinking, why is Mike Love leaving a message on your answering machine? And she's all, he does that all the time. He has the wrong number. And I'm like, excuse me? What? Save that. I just thought it was so funny. But then later on, when she got married and went on her honeymoon, she had dinner with Mike Love, Al Jardine, and one other person, I can't remember who it was. I'm like, "What?" I mean, she just reminded me of this just recently, and I'm like, "I need to hear this story again." I'm like, "Why does Mike Love keep popping into your life?" That's what I wanna know.
Yeah.
So I love those memories. I had asked other fellow guests that have
Mhm,
podcasted with us before if they had any thoughts, and another person, my friend Cindy, had said this. Here is my favorite Beach Boy song memory. God only knows. At the end of Love Actually, this is the perfect song that wraps up all the characters and brings them together. And then it closes with a montage of random people greeting each other. What a great movie ending. And then she goes on to say, it is also a song my husband picked out for his dad's memorial, played at the closing of the service. As everyone exited the chapel, it was a beautiful choice of a song and words. Since his dad loved the Beach Boys and it was uplifting way to end the service, I'll remember that moment always.
mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Aw.
I would be bawling all the way out. I mean, you're already bawling because you miss, you're
Yeah.
missing someone, but then to have that song, oh man, these songs, they're just so many of them feel cinematic
Mhm,
and emotional and timeless. And just Brian Wilson made that music
mhm.
tell stories. And so I love that. So we're going to shift gears a little bit into some movie moments. And she had brought up Love Actually, God only knows. Do you remember that moment,
Yes.
Renee?
I love that. I just yeah, the first time I watched that movie, I can't even tell countless times because it's just such a great movie. And yeah, that ending, every time it's just like I can't stop what I'm doing and just watch it because it is, as she said, you see all those people and you see everything going on, and it's just like this uplifting, and it ties every you kind of get those resolutions to the different
Yeah,
the different stories and see what happened, that like I think it's a year later maybe, or I forget how long it is. And but yeah, I agree with what she said. It's a perfect way to end that movie.
I know, it's so good. I know, and also another movie is 51st Dates, Wouldn't It Be Nice?
So good.
Such a great song, such a great movie about how it related to her
Mhm.
parents, I believe, right? And that was their sort of song that they loved. And then that moment with Adam Sandler on the sailboat or whatever it is, that boat, and he gets the Beach Boys song and he's like cry or like funny crying or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So, that song and the Beach Boys are figured prominently in
Mhm.
that. And also, we just both watched Love and Mercy, which I wasn't aware of, John Cusack, Paul Dano,
I did so
and yeah, and Elizabeth Banks.
Mhm.
And if you haven't seen the movie, it is about the Beach Boys in the 60s and Brian Wilson in the 80s and how he was dealing with mental illness and how his second wife was instrumental in helping him out of the clutches of that.
Dr. Landry, I think Landry.
Yeah, that doctor played by Paul
Mhm.
Giamatti, who was really good. But
Yeah.
everybody was really good in this,
Mhm.
and I learned a lot. What did you think of the movie?
Yeah, well, I didn't know, like, I don't know a lot of personal things about the Beach Boys. I just know the music and I love the music, and I know they're very innovative and they're, obviously very good at what they do. But other than that, I didn't know a lot of personal things. So this was all brand new information. I had no idea that Brian Wilson had battled mental illness for years and years. I mean, the majority of his life. And so that was really eye opening. And I did some more research afterwards, looking up things online because I thought I got to read some more about this. But yeah, it was very eye opening. And like until you mentioned the movie, I had never heard of it. And I mean, this is like the kind of movie I watch all the time. Like, why is this not on my radar? So I was very happy that you shared it ahead of time because it gave me, it opened my eyes to a lot of things about the Beach Boys. And yeah, so it's a great movie. Especially if you like those type of like kind of biopic kind of, it's
Yeah.
loosely based on their lives and things like that. So I thought it was a great movie and very, like you said, very well acted.
It was so good. I loved it because when they showed them in the '60s, how Brian Wilson worked on the music and how
Mhm.
everything had to be perfect and how he could hear things in his head and wanted that to be reproduced
Yeah.
somehow through the musicians or and through the singing and it also showed friction and
Mhm.
divide between him and his cousin Mike Love, which I had forgotten about, to
Mhm.
be honest. I think I probably knew it at one
Mhm.
point and then I forgot about it, but it was highlighted in this film because, you have brothers and you have cousins and you have a friend, and not everything's always going to go perfect. You have different visions. So that I thought was sort of revealing to see
Mhm.
that aspect too. But I loved the musical aspect of all of this. And the name of the movie is called Love and Mercy, and that was after a song that Brian Wilson, I believe, had done in 1988.
Mhm.
That was a solo song of his.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I just thought it was a great movie. So we recommend that movie
Mhm.
to anyone who wants to learn
Yeah.
more. I also want to bring up the Grammys, the Beach Boys salute. It's from 2023. It just played again this
Mhm.
past weekend. I watched it again. I forgot I had seen it until I saw the Struts. What's that guy's name again?
Luke Spiller.
What Yes. That was where I saw him 2 years ago, and I brought it up to you, which is so funny how that all ties
Yep.
together, because I was so like, "Oh my god, who's" 2 years ago, I'm like, "Who is this guy?" And then you were writing a lot about him and how much you love
Mhm.
him and his work and
Mhm.
everything, and so I came to know him because of The Salute. But anyway, when I was watching The Salute this time, I was thinking it was fresh, and then I saw Brian Wilson in the in the
Mhm.
stands. I'm like, "Wait, this is from previous." And then I realized, "Oh, this is from 2 years ago." And, "Oh, I watched this already." But it was the music is so good. How
Mhm.
can you not,
Yeah.
right? And I loved watching Hanson
Mhm.
do were they doing Barbara Ann, or help me, they were doing Barbara Ann, I think.
Yeah.
I get the because they're both names, it's
Yeah.
hard to remember. They were so good. Like, I'm thinking, "Hanson, you are so good at harmonizing as brothers on
Mhm.
this." It was so good. I love seeing family
I know.
harmonize. There's something about family harmonizing that
Mhm.
just really, really works. So, did you have any other movies that
I
you wanted to
did.
bring up?
So when you showed me that you mentioned in the email about the list of movies, I was like, "Oh, yeah," and they were all very, "Yep, yep, I know exactly what she's talking about." And then I sat there and thought, there is another movie that I really like one of my favorite movies, but I couldn't think of what it was, and the reason is because it's not a popular, or at least not popular to me, Beach Boys song. It's in Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous.
Yeah.
So he uses Free Flow, and that is his favorite Beach Boys song, and so he featured it twice in the movie,
Aw.
and it's yeah,
Aw.
and it's kind of a I know I like a trippy, nonsensical. The lyrics are like I don't know what they were talking about, but I mean it flows well and things. But you're like, what is going on in this? But, like I feel like it gives like stoner kind of hippie vibes the way they.
Uh-huh.
Carl wrote it, and then they did something weird with like the piano and the organ to make it have this like thing. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's right!" Because I couldn't. I just knew there was something because it was not a familiar song to me before that movie, but I love that movie so much, and so that was the first one that I discovered. And then when I was looking for that one, I found Cocktails, the Kokomo song. I was like, "What the heck?" They like wrote that for the movie.
Oh
They
my
were
gosh.
nominated for a Grammy and a Golden Globe, and it was their first number one hit in 22 years.
Wow, chills down my back, Renee.
Because I was like, that song like encompassed that the whole that whole time he was on the island, with and so I was like, how did we not even think of that one? 'Cause-
So if you're only listening and you can't see me visually, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Both my arms, I've got chills up and down. I can feel them. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm
Mhm.
so glad that you remembered that.
Well, I did. I was searching for
Or
the other movie,
yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah,
Coco, what? I'm like, oh my gosh, because I again, Cocktail. I love that movie, and that song. That gets in your head. That is an earworm.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, with you saying that, I'm so glad you brought that up because that song, for some reason, I think about it quickly sometimes when I think about the Big Beach Boys. I don't know
Mhm.
why. I love the song. It's not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite,
Right.
but I love the song,
Mhm.
and it is. It's so catchy, and it feels like, again, you should be vacationing somewhere on the beach. There's just that there's just that
Mm.
harmony and that soothing, but that also, okay, wait. That reminded me of another song I wanted to bring up. California Girls. Oh my gosh. If I had ended this podcast without mentioning California Girls. Now, I don't know if you're not in California, if you care or not. Like, is that like a, but he says how beautiful everybody is and he wants them all to be California Girls. But I love that song. And it's so funny because also Van Halen
Yes.
redid the song too. But yes, I prefer the Beach Boys tune, even though they're good too.
Oh,
They're good too. But I remember their music video. In fact, we might have talked about it
yeah.
in our music
Yeah,
video
possibly.
segment. I don't know, but those are good ones. Yeah. The one thing I wanted to say about Wouldn't It Be Nice was that I read somewhere just recently that Brian Wilson had a crush on Diane Rovell, which I think was his sister-in-law or
Yeah, because he didn't they
some.
were the group, the 2 sisters, they were in, was it like Honey or Honey
Yes,
Love or something like that?
yes,
That was because he produced their stuff or whatever. But that
yeah.
is, yeah, that would have been the sister.
That's why it's full of longing and those lush harmonies, so it's
That's
so but
right.
it's a
Mhm.
hopeful song. So these songs really resonated in those movies. Why do you think these songs work in film? Like, what makes them timeless?
I think it's because they are they're emotional, whether it's a happy emotion or a sad or, whatever, they're very emotional. So that they fit the tone of whatever scene they're being featured in. And a lot, most of the time they're the uplifting songs, that are featured in these
Yeah,
movies, so that just makes it more fun anyway. And so yeah, I just think it's just all the emotion that they put into it. And a lot of times, like, I think, you mentioned that earlier about how it's relevant, like whatever is
yeah,
going on, you're like, oh yeah, I can kind of like understand that. And the song is matching the scene in the movie, and then you're thinking, oh yeah, I've experienced that or whatever, and so I think it
yeah.
just all ties together. And yeah, they just work very well in movies or shows.
Yeah, it does, and I have the same thing that you just said, emotional resonance and relatability, how universal it is. Also, the melody and the production of
Mhm,
it, and it's a sense of place and timelessness.
mhm,
I also feel like so many times, even if it's moving, even if it's happy, there's still something underneath there that tugs at your heart,
mhm,
even if it is a good, happy feeling.
mhm,
I read this somewhere. Their earlier music was much more catchy,
mhm,
fun, let's go catch some waves, and then it transitioned because I think that they wanted to be, really put out really good music, and that's when it started to shift into, like, probably Good
mhm,
Vibrations and God Only Knows and so many more that they have done. So, I love seeing sort of that transition that they went to, and even Kokomo
mhm,
too, right? Because that's a little bit different too.
mhm,
So, yeah, I love seeing all of that, and beyond the Beach Boys and how other music impacts things that we see, and the things that come to mind are like Shallow, Lady Gaga in A Star Is Born, and also in Barbie
mhm,
with Billie Eilish's What Was I Made For? The music in that and the songs in that, to me, elevate the movie even more. It's like you love the movie, then you listen to the song, and then you revisit that movie, and it has a new perspective and it
mhm.
really shapes it. So, are there any other movies that come to mind for you where that has happened?
The first one that popped into my head was from Say Anything in Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel, when John Cusack is standing there with the boombox. See, that was the first one. I was like, that popped into my head because it was so iconic. And everyone knows what that is, whether you watch the movie or not. They parody that in a lot of other, they'll do some kind of thing and kind of making fun of it, or, what, or just homage to it or whatever. But that was like the first thing that popped into my head because that was so iconic during that time with that movie.
Yeah.
Couple other ones too that but they all end up being like 80s movies because that's kind of what I just like got on that
Yeah.
track, So I was thinking like Footloose and
Yeah.
Kenny Loggins, of course. Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds from Breakfast Club at the end there, Bender's got his fist, up,
Yeah.
and that kind of just, that was another like moment that it really fit everything that was going on. And then of course Danger Zone from Top Gun
Yeah.
because that was just such a again fit every single part of the movie that was played and it just fit and worked so well. So those were just the ones, of course they were all I think all 80s movies, but they just kind of popped in my head.
They're so good. That's because 80s music is good
I
and
know.
80s films are fun. But we had talked a lot about of these in our soundtrack
Mhm.
episode, and we had talked about Purple Rain with Prince because, I mean,
Because it's
come
Prince.
on. Yeah, yeah, because it's Prince. And so I was trying to think, wait, were there some others that we didn't cover in that? And I'm not sure if we covered these or not, but I am gonna bring them up, and that is Bohemian Rhapsody in Wayne's
Oh
World.
yeah.
Because you cannot help but think about Wayne's
Mhm.
World when you think of that song, and also Wilson Phillips, "Hold On" in Bridesmaids, but, there's the connection to the Beach Boys right there, right? The daughters, his
Mhm.
daughters, and that song, I love that
It's a
song.
fun song.
Talk about harmonies, again, they're
Yeah.
all related too,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
it's so good, and so this song I had to bring up, and it's gonna tie into what I say later on about in our movie and TV recommendations, but Lulu into Sir with Love, that is one of my utmost favorite songs ever, and I think I saw the movie, I'm not even sure, but that song, if you've never heard it, go listen to it. To me, it just hits me in the heart, in the gut. Do you know that song at
No,
all,
I
Renee?
don't.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send it to you, and I'm gonna link it in our show notes, people. Go
Mhm.
listen to it. It is so good, and it is on a movie with Sidney Poitier in
Mm.
it, okay? But the words in that song, to me, I don't know the true meaning, but to me, it's about a young woman, meaning maybe teenager or college age, whatever, who learned from her professor and is going out into the world, but it's such a great song. It's gorgeous and I love it and it's just heartfelt. And you already mentioned Kenny Loggins and Footloose because yeah, just that's such a fun song. All right. There's so much more we could talk about. So much more to the Beach Boys, so much more to Brian Wilson, so much more to music because I know Renee loves music. I know I do. But we just wanted to kind of take a little bit of a trip down memory lane and also hopefully just to pay tribute.
Mhm.
So I want to get back to our question of the day. And that is if your life had a soundtrack moment, what song would be playing?
And I couldn't think of one. I have 4 because then I thought of another one. Yeah. So, it depends on the day, of course, depends on what's happening, but the songs that I just really thought of when I think of like, okay, my day and how things go or whatever. So I thought of Beautiful Day by U2 because I try to have it, try to make it a good day, but that's just so good,
Aw,
and he's yelling that, and
yeah.
Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles because I love the
Oh,
sun. And I just, I hear that song and it just makes me smile.
yeah.
And then Times Like These by the Foo Fighters, because that's gonna be my heavy hitter one, and rethinking things. And then I thought, and then it popped in my head was Don't Stop Me Now by Queen.
Ah, love
What-
it.
yeah. So yeah, that was my ones I thought of.
It's hard,
It
right?
is.
Because I'm asking you and me who love music, and it's like there's no way in the world we're gonna be able to narrow this down, and it's just in our mood right now,
Mhm,
today, this week, whatever, and it's hard because we've lived a life. So do we pick something from our youth? Do we pick up something now? What do we pick?
mhm.
But for me, I can't help but get nostalgic a little bit. So I have 3. And the first one is Journey, Don't Stop Believing,
Mm, good one.
because it's about unstoppable hope and chasing dreams. So that's me. That's me. And also Journey's Faithfully, because it has such emotional heart and loyalty,
Mhm.
and that grounds me. But I also wanted to, I'm like, my family means so much, my friends mean so much, and so I had to think of Queen's You're My Best Friend.
Oh, yeah, great
So,
one.
yeah. So, I'm like, and that's just a tribute to everybody in my life,
Mhm.
including you, Renee. So, it's just yeah, it's hard, but
Yeah,
yeah. But
those are
I
good
oh,
ones. Those are really good.
yeah. So are yours. Yours are really good ones too. Friends out there, we invite you to share with us, if your life had a soundtrack moment, what song would be playing? And if you can't choose one, just like we can't choose one, you can give us a couple. Also, if you want to say anything about the Beach Boys or your favorite song of theirs or a memory or anything about Brian Wilson, we'd love to hear it. Of course, you can call us at 669-223-8542 or leave us a comment wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. You can get to all of our social media in the show notes or go to our website at screensinfocus.com because we want to hear from you. Oh man, that was so much
Mhm.
fun,
Yes,
Renee,
I'm
going
so
down
glad we
memory
did
lane.
this.
Yes, me too. But we're not going to leave you just yet. I do want to check in with Renee because it's been a minute since I've heard what you're watching, but I want to know if you have any TV or movie recommendations that are summer
Mhm,
or surfing or just fun in general.
mhm. I was thinking about like, okay, what are good summer movies, kind of thing. And Stand By Me popped into my head because I was like, that's just such a classic, and it's just the boys and right before school starts and all
Yeah.
that, so that one popped in. And then I watched this one called The Way, Way Back. It was from night. Did you watch that one?
Yes, I have. I
Yes, and
love
it's
it.
just such a fun coming of age. It's from 2013, and it's just really, really good. And it's got a great cast and everything. So you should check that one out because it's a fun summary, about this. And you follow this boy and his, just stuff that he experiences that summer. And then I thought, then that made me
Great cast. That's a
the
great
cast,
cast.
yes,
Yeah.
great cast, yes. And then Sandlot, thought of that one because that's a fun summer one too. And then another one, I thought of the movie Now and Then. Have you watched that one?
I have, but
Yeah,
it's been a while. I'd
that's
say
another
out of
one.
all these, remember
Yeah,
that one the least.
mhm,
Yeah.
and it's just such a good because you've got 2 different it's the same characters, but you're seeing them as children than as adults, and these things are going through, and you just and again, it's a great cast, and Brendan Fraser even has a cameo in it.
Ah,
So that's always fun. But yeah, it's just a fun, again, coming of age kind of movie, but it's summery and all that what they do during the summer. So those are the ones I recommend for like summer fun.
I want to go watch them like so bad. You make me just talking about them. I'm like, I want to watch it. I want to watch it. Because sometimes, I don't know if you get this feeling, like sometimes I just want to watch something that feels good, like The
Mhm,
Sandlot or Stand By Me. They just remind you of your youth and just watching just a story about friendships and friends and
mhm,
all of that. Oh, it's just such feel good. Thank you
yeah.
for sharing those. So I want to share Surf Girls Hawaii. It's on Prime. I love this. It is the next generation of native Hawaiian female surfers compete for a coveted spot in a professional surfing world tour. But I'm so excited. I follow the director of that, and she said season 2 is coming. So I'm so excited. It is so good. I don't know what it is about me and
Mhm.
surf movies, but I just love, not that I have ever surfed, but I love watching them. So I'm really excited to recommend that. Also, The Summer I Turned Pretty season 3 is coming out on Prime July 16th, I believe. And the first couple seasons were fun. So that's a good movie to turn into. It's from a book,
Mhm.
right? I believe so. Yeah. Also, Sirens is out on Netflix. I watched that just a month or so ago. It's so good. And there's some beach scenes in there, and it's just a fun one. And the only reason I'm bringing up this next one is because I I emailed you about this, Renee, about Duster on Max. Have you tuned in
I
yet?
watched the first episode and I'm like, okay, I gotta get back to it because yeah, I really enjoyed the first episode. Yeah.
The music, I'm been watching it up to date once a week because the episodes released once a week. It's with Josh Holloway, and it's in the 70s, but oh man, the music is so good. Wait till you as you go each
Mhm.
episode, they play phenomenal music. And I also love that they have because it is in the 70s,
Mhm.
but they have the first female black FBI
Mhm.
agent, and then her partner is a Native American FBI agent, and I love them.
Mhm.
And it's funny because it's a lot of those two doing some, FBI agent stuff, and you have Josh Holloway over here doing his kind of criminal activity and trying to get out of trouble over here. And it's just a really good watch. It's
Mhm.
it's fun, even though it has to do with crime. It's still fun.
Yeah.
So, but I also wanted to share Chasing Mavericks. I saw this a while back. It's a 2012 surfing film with Gerard Butler. It's based on a true story. Really good. I highly recommend it. And I haven't seen this, but The Surfer is with Nicolas
Mm,
Cage. And I think it just came out in theaters like mm, April, May,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
So I haven't seen that yet. But the other thing I wanted to bring up was Becoming Led Zeppelin on Netflix. So good. The only thing is it ended at like 1970. And I'm like,
There's so much more.
what? Like, what? I need more of this. But oh, so good. I'm a Led Zeppelin fan. Their music and just hearing them and their beginnings. And the reason this was going to tie into the other thing was that I didn't realize that John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page were musician beasts before they became Led
Mhm.
Zeppelin. Like they were in the studios, and John Paul Jones played on To Sir with Love,
Oh, wow.
which I didn't know. And also they played on Goldfinger,
Mm,
the James Bond movie. So there was a lot of
mhm,
music that they played in even before they started with Led Zeppelin.
mhm.
And they weren't just like this garage. It wasn't like they were in their garage just playing together. No, they were all like, no wonder they're so good,
Yeah.
right? Because they were just so good at their craft. So I highly recommend that movie documentary. So, all right. Renee, thank you, Renee, for being with me today. I know it was impromptu, and I appreciate your time, your recommendations, and your insights. So thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for asking. I was very excited when you asked, even though it was short notice. I was like, "Yep, I'm doing it. I'll figure it out."
I'm so glad. Friends out there, I'm so glad that you joined us. And again, please, I really want to know your favorite Beach Boys song. I would love to hear that. So please leave us a message on that.
My favorite song, I think, from the Beach Boys would be Wouldn't It Be Nice because of the movie 50 First Dates. My parents, I got divorced when I was like, I don't know, around the time that movie had come out. And it was on, my mom either like bought it or we rented it constantly. So it's just like a really nice, just like a memory because that movie has such like a nice it's a rom-com, but it's a like a deeper rom-com. Like it's not like a goofy one because my mom and I like loved those. So we thought like going into it, it's gonna be that, and then it wasn't, and it hit us like that much harder, and we were like, this movie is really good. So yeah, so when I hear that song, I think of that really happy memory.
Thank you for joining us. We hope we gave you some insight, a chuckle, some nostalgia. And remember to follow Screens in Focus at screensinfocus.com. And remember to keep watching, keep exploring, and keep those screens in focus. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.